Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pro Football Scoring Channel. I'm your host, Flynn Given, and today we'll be recapping Week 8's game, and then tomorrow we'll be previewing Week 9's game. So, first game of Week 8 was obviously the Thursday night game between the Ravens and Buccaneers. It was the game where the Bucs did drive down the field on their first possession, ran the ball okay, and they got a couple pass plays in there, but after that, they really didn't do much until late in the fourth quarter. And ultimately, the second half of the Ravens was pretty dominant. They struggled offensively in the first half, but after that, it was pretty good. I'm going to go over this game really quickly since I already recapped it last week. Other than that, Bucks are 3-5, and they got the Rams coming up. A tough game for them, even though both teams are struggling. The Ravens helps them. They got the division lead now. They got wins over the teams that you could say are competing for that division. So the Ravens are in a pretty good spot right now. And then we get the London game. Denver Jacksonville. Man, this game comes down to Jags' decent start to the game, but just didn't do much after that. And then, they ran the ball pretty good. But Denver in the second half looked actually like a solid offense. And then when the Denver took the lead, after Jacksonville took the lead, um, like they had one more shot, and Lawrence throws a bad pick, and game's over. They just can't figure out how to close or win these games, these tight games, and that's why they go from 2-1 to 2-6. Most of these games they were in, just couldn't close it. Denver, I guess you could say, keeps their season alive. I don't expect a lot, but they're not, totally out of it. Most teams with 3 wins right now are not out of the picture, but hard to see them competing for the division at least. Jacksonville, they are now 3 games back of Tennessee. They just won a couple of these games. They're in a spot where they can, win the division. It's gonna be tough now. Obviously, we're now halfway through the season, just getting there pretty much. So anything can really happen, but I think Jacksonville will win, 5-6 games, and it depends who you ask if that's disappointing or not. I don't know. It's about right. I had them winning actually 7, surprisingly. But the first time I did this, my season predictor was like 5 or 6, can't remember. So about where they are. And in Denver, I expect to have a losing season. I thought they were a little bit overrated. I don't know what exactly people exactly saw. They gave up a lot of good players in the trade, and not just the picks was obviously a big thing, but the defense is how played what I thought they were going to do. I thought their run defense wasn't going to be great. Now they traded away Chubb, even though Chubb's surprised he got that kind of contract. People were still viewing him like he's as good or was worth that top 5 pick or top 10 pick at least. And I just don't see it. And his 2 best seasons were really this year and I think his rookie year or whatever, maybe second year. Pretty much when he has Von Miller or Baron Browning on the other side is when he's done well. I know that's just sacks, but just in general, he really hasn't been. He's been an average football player, a solid player, and obviously they got a lot. They got a first round pick in the trade, and that's 49ers pick, and then the Dolphins signed him to a big deal. So moving on though, Carolina and Atlanta, which we'll see in less than a week, but this was a really good game. Panthers, other than the completion percent, a lot of completions. I mean, they got it to GG Moore. They ran the ball really well. Can't really complain. They did. They looked good. They obviously scored 30 points. They haven't been able to do that really the last year and a half. And Atlanta, this is 2 bad defensive weeks, but their offense ran the ball pretty well. I mean, it was pretty good. And, this is the one way to attack them. Carolina's pass defense, is above average, I would say. The run defense is about average. And this is how teams are attacking. Atlanta's pretty good running the ball. Mario doesn't throw those 2 interceptions. Who knows? Obviously, the penalty at the end of the game when DJ Moore took his helmet off and they missed the extra point and they missed another kick in overtime. Obviously, they had a chance to win. And, these teams are about the same, even though I think the coaching staff is better in Atlanta. I think the Panthers roster, though, is a little bit better. So, we'll see this game. Obviously, we'll talk about it more since it's coming up again. Here's another game. The Bears started to score some points the last couple of weeks. They always run the ball pretty good. But this is the worst defensive performance for the Bears easily all year. I think Green Bay might have been the only other game where they kind of struggled. But it wasn't like this. Tony Pollard, big day. Pretty much like 9 yards of carry. Prescott looked pretty good as well. The Bears have already traded their best players on defense. I think they're going to be pretty bad for the rest of the year. And when they get Eberflus, defensive mind, they got that staff. Maybe they can figure out some, but they just don't have the players right now. Really on either side of the field, but they can run the ball and they can use Fields' legs to their advantage. Dallas, stays in the conversation for the divisional East. 6-2, they still play the Eagles one more time. We'll talk about the Eagles soon. They still have a chance to win the division, at least get in the playoffs. And in this game, it was a pretty good game. Shootout early on. Kind of slowed down then in that, second half-ish. No points in the fourth quarter. Detroit had their chances, but they made Tua look really good. This defense obviously hasn't stopped much teams, and Tyreek Hill and Waddle do what they have done for most of the year. This is probably one of the lower scoring games for the Lions at home in Detroit, and it's probably the least points maybe of the year in Detroit. Just thinking about it, but now they trade T.J. Hawkinson. They're obviously still in the rebuild, and it's going to continue for the rest of this year, and you would say into next year. But at least Miami comes out with the win. They're still in the division race. Definitely, I think, a playoff team if Tua and that crew stay healthy. This is another game. Cardinals won this game last year off a missed field goal by the Vikings. And then this was just mistakes by the Cardinals allowing the Vikings. The Vikings had the lead, don't get me wrong. For pretty much most of this game. Pretty much all the game, actually, thinking about it. Whole game. And Vikings really could do whatever they wanted offensively for the most part. But the Cardinals don't have dumb reception by Murray. Look, he threw 44 times. Pretty high completion percentage. They're efficient offensively, especially with Hopkins back. He got 12 passes on 13 targets. They know how to feed him. It's kind of similar how the Packers were with Adams. They know how to feed their guys. And then the Dortch fumble on the punt. You have those 3 turnovers are key in this game. It's probably the reason why they lost the game. And the Vikings stay 6-1. And they got a pretty good division lead over Green Bay and the Bears. This is a shot. Don't have a great feeling on this game. It's every time I've seen the Saints converting 3rd and longs and the Raiders not even getting first downs. What was the first downs? 13. It wasn't been like crazy off, but they had half the yards of the Saints. Maybe they get a first down, but then you want to get any more. They're the one interception which Tyrann Mathieu had. But this can't be you can't just have Mike Collins get 7 catches, Foster Moreau 6 catches. These are, your starting. I guess they're starters, but they're not the feature guys, especially before the year, because Darren Waller's been hurt. But you have Adams, got even Hunter Renfrow, and these guys are barely getting the ball. I know I'm sure the Saints, they found some way to slow down Raiders and make sure those guys didn't get the ball, but there's different ways. Like I know they gave a run to Adams for -1 yards. Like it's just not enough touches, however you want to do it. Especially those are your key players. You know, obviously Jacobs didn't get going. Your offensive line, I'm sure, struggled the whole game, run blocking and pass blocking. But that doesn't mean you score 0 points. Like those teams had some struggles offensively, especially offensive line. They found ways to get some points on the board. It's not a good performance by the Raiders. They play Jacksonville next week, and the Saints, they play Monday Night Football against the Ravens. Though that is a team we'll preview. That running quarterbacks have given the Saints issues, so we'll see. This is the game where Zach Wilson plays his worst game of the year easily. Though I will say, thought Zach Wilson had played somewhat good besides those 3 picks. I know it's under 50%. They were down late because of his mistakes, especially the last 2 interceptions were horrible. And the first one wasn't great either. Obviously, they had no run game. James Robinson's not going to fill Breece Hall's shoes easily. And Michael Carter, he's a good player. It hasn't worked. Breece Hall's the only one who really has done anything with the offensive line. I'm not saying it's a bad group. It just had some injuries, and it's just not playing great. And, they got the ball, Garrett Wilson and Conklin. But besides that, one big play to Denzel Mims. Again, I thought Wilson played all right besides those terrible interceptions, but if he doesn't turn them over and they actually don't get the roughing the passer call, which is big before the half, Mac Jones threw it right to Michael Carter, the second defensive player, Michael Carter, and he returned it for a touchdown, but they roughing the passer on Franklin Myers, I believe. And then the Patriots get some points before the half. It makes it 6-10. They score a touchdown. They're down now, and they just keep kicking field goals the rest of the game, and they win the game. Jets pretty much beat themselves. New England, you could say, they outcoached them, especially in the second half. That's kind of how New England is, how they get their wins. Moving on, we see the Eagles already recently against Houston. Game before against Pittsburgh Steelers. They pretty much dominated. Brown 3 touchdowns in the first half. Then a Zach Pascal touchdown from Hurts having 4 touchdowns. He only had 6 before this game. And then Miles Sanders running then. It's domination. Pick again. That didn't look great. Wasn't his worst game though. Claypool even threw a touchdown, which it's going to be his last pass as a Steeler, and his last game as a Steeler. And Warren had the most rushing yards. Harris didn't. They just didn't have a chance really. Couldn't really run the ball. They were down so much. Pickett's running for his life, getting sacked a lot. Eagles are just such way better football team right now. And the Steelers, even with good plans, it's just not enough. Here's a game where the Titans back up Malik Willis, the rookie quarterback, 3rd-round pick. It made him throw only one time the second half. The interception was ugly. They just basically just kept running Derrick Henry. 32 carries, 219 yards. Another game against Houston where Derrick Henry is over 200 yards. Hilliard even had 83. And I thought they might actually use Willis more in the run game, but that just did not happen. I don't trust him at this point. Look, he's a rookie. Doesn't mean it's not the end of the world. Davis Mills really struggled in this game, probably his worst game of the year. And then Pierce got shut down for the one of the few games this year where Tennessee's defensive line is pretty good. It was an ugly win, but this is how Tennessee plays. They just outcoach you. They have a pretty good system. They know what they are, and they just stay to it. And hopefully, it helps leads to victories. And now they got the Chiefs, a team they won 29-3 or something last year. on Sunday Night Football. So we'll see that. And Houston obviously lost the game against the Eagles, which they played all right. Ran the ball pretty good, just dumb turnovers by Mills. We'll talk about that next tomorrow. This game, it was relatively ugly. There was some big plays. McLaurin had 113 yards on 6 catches. Colts didn't do a ton. At the end of the game, Washington kicked the field goal. They scored a touchdown and then kicked the extra point. The Colts get the ball. People forget this, and they threw it to Pittman. He could have got around the 50-yard line, but he dropped it. He would catch 2 passes the next 2 plays, and the game would be over. You can see his incomplete. This play really could change the game. It could have maybe led to a field goal, but ultimately Washington wins. They're 4-4, and they're in 4th place in the division, while the Colts are 2nd place in the division at 3-4-1. And here's a game where I thought the Rams pretty much got dominated like I expected. For most of the game, it was just some big Stafford, even Cooper Kupp plays that helped them on the 2 drives they scored points. Besides that, they didn't do anything. Second half was 4-9 dominated. McCaffrey had 3 touchdowns, all different variety of passing, rushing, and receiving. And the Rams, they're at the point where they're playing the Buccaneers. They need to win that football game. They've had a history beating the Bucs when they've had Tom Brady. This is their opportunity. They have probably feel good against the Bucs, and they're again not as good as anywhere near last year's Super Bowl team. But who else? You're not going to feel great about any team you play against. You already defeated a team like the Panthers and the Falcons. It's not going to be a lot of easy games on your schedule. So again, it's almost a must win for both teams. Maybe not that far, but they're 2 games back. They still play Seattle twice. Rams are in it, but I don't feel confident about them turning it around. 49ers feel a little bit different. I feel like they'll probably win the division, but right now Seattle's winning it, and it's because of this game right here. They get the 5th win of the year. Again, this is a game I picked. I was not sure of, but I felt like the Seattle could run it, and they actually didn't do much run. They try to run it. That's what they like to do, but it wasn't nothing really successful. Giants did a pretty good job loading the box and shutting down Ken Walker. But Geno Smith played pretty well, and then you had, I think it was Richie James getting hurt, but also fumbling 2 punts. That's not how the Giants are going to win games. They need those plays for the other team to make those mistakes. But they made the mistakes this game, and they cost them. And they're still, Giants still in the division race. I don't think that's going to happen at all, but never know. And, their playoffs most likely just because of their record, but I think it's going to turn there. Again, I'm not the biggest believer in the Giants. More of the roster. The coaches are pretty good. Again, we'll see. They got a good start to the year. We'll see how they finish. There's a game. Those mistakes, and especially the second half, Buffalo had. Phil Rogers played pretty well, pretty good. Didn't have the protection early on. Pick was just bad luck, you could say. Good play, good deflection, I guess. And then they you could say slow start, but defensively was a slow start. They got torched early on, the Packers defense. But ultimately they outgained in every single category. They did better than the Buffalo Bills besides scoring points. Maybe yards per play, you could see average gain. But other than that, it was pretty close. Penalties they had more of. They just got stopped on 2 4th downs. They missed a field goal late in the game. You have a controversial, which I think is a bad call. Robert Tonyan didn't. I don't think it was. If it was pass interference offense, it probably was holding on the defense. Either way, it took 4 points, you could say, off the board. So there's a lot of things there. Now, Buffalo, you never know. They might, if it was a closer game, how they would played. But this is more promising on the Packers side. We'll see how they play against Detroit this week. But, you know, Samora Torre got a second catch in the NFL for a touchdown. His first touchdown of his career. Romeo Doubs made a pretty good catch. Well, the Bills, they played well, but it was a little sloppy. Who knows if that's because it was a bye. Um, Again, wasn't their best performance, but they come out with a win and stay 6-1, which is the top of their conference. And then the Monday night game, I did pick the Browns. I was saying Bengals can't take advantage of what the Browns are struggling, and then also no Jamar Chase doesn't help. I didn't think Burrow played that bad. He just didn't have the protection, didn't have the run game. And Browns, especially second half, they controlled the game. Controlled the game most of the game, to be honest. Especially the third quarter, though. They came out, scored 2 touchdowns, scored another touchdown in the fourth. Gave up, a couple of garbage time. And it wasn't garbage time touchdown, but they were up so big it didn't matter really. They ran the ball all right. They had a lot of attempts. Brissett played all right. They had a dumb interception by Amari Cooper, which look at the receiver throwing the pass. Can't put, it's you let those players, other players other than the quarterback throw it. There's chances that they throw right to the defender or make a stupid decision or force it, which pretty much happened there. But Browns look good. They dominated. One of those teams. They get a lot of red zone trips. I think they lead the league actually in red zone trips, and they're 3-5. Like they have the talent. They just need to stay in the pace, stay in the race. They're only 2 games back. Obviously, they lost to Baltimore, which doesn't help. But you beat Cincinnati. They'll probably beat Cincinnati again later in the year. Even though we'll be in Cincinnati and Jamar Chase probably will be playing. They got the Steelers. They can beat the Steelers another time. They already defeated them. They will have the Ravens again. So they're not out of it, though I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think Deshaun Watson's, even though he's a great quarterback, I just don't know how he's going to be after a couple of years. So, years of playing. So we'll see. That is all for week number 8 of the regular season. We recapped every game. We'll go on to week 9 tomorrow. So thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.